The geometric patterns of ancient human structures have fascinated scholars and scientists for decades. Experts have recently discovered that the geometry of ancient Egyptian relics holds deeper meanings in relation to physics and biology. The geometry of ancient Egypt was essential for surveying in order to preserve ownership of farmland that was annually flooded by the Nile River. However, after studying the pyramids and hieroglyphs in detail, experts have found patterns and measurements that Egyptian architects and engineers allegedly had no knowledge of at that time. For decades, modern scholars and scientists have analyzed and studied the geometric elements of ancient human structures. Recently, they have discovered that the thousands of years old structures' geometric patterns hold deeper meanings in relation to physics and biology. Particularly, the geometry of ancient Egyptian relics has caught the eye of experts who are finding new and mind-blowing things about the vast knowledge of ancient Egyptians. The geometry of ancient Egypt was necessary for surveying in order to preserve ownership of farmland that was annually flooded by the Nile River. However, after studying the pyramids and hieroglyphs in detail, experts have found patterns and measurements that Egyptian architects and engineers allegedly had no knowledge of at that time. For the ancient Egyptians, geometry meant far more than the study of points, lines, surfaces, solids, and their respective properties and measurements. The harmony evident in geometry was considered one of the most cogent expressions of a divine plane that underlies the world. In ancient Egypt, they believed it was a metaphysical plane that determined the physical one, and geometry was the means by which humanity could finally unravel and understand the mysteries of the divine order. Geometry exists in every part of nature, and its order underlies the structure of all things, including molecules, biological beings, and galaxies. The nature of geometric form allows for its functioning, and the design should also achieve the same goal using the principles of sacred geometry. Sacred geometry does not only deal with the proportions of geometrical figures, it also concerns the harmonic relations of the parts as a whole. For instance, the parts of the human being as they relate to one another, the forms of crystals and natural objects, and the structure of plants and animals. All of these are a manifestation of the universal continuum, the key principle of harmonic proportion or sacred geometry, the relationship between the progression of growth and proportion. Both harmonic proportion and progression is the essence of the created universe. Nature surrounding us also follows this harmonious relationship. The natural progression follows a series famous as the Fibonacci series. But since this existed before Fibonacci, it should not bear his name. Many have resorted to calling it the summation series. It is a progressive series where you start with the first two numbers in the ancient Egyptian system, which are 2 and 3. Then you add their total to the preceding number, and so on and on. When he figures the sum of the two preceding ones, the summation series is reflected throughout nature, from the number of seeds in a sunflower to the growth of a nautilus shell. Overwhelming evidence indicates that this series was known to the ancient Egyptians. The plans of temples and tombs throughout the long history of Egypt indicate that the major elements of the temples are positioned along the longitudinal axis following the consecutive numbers of the summation series. The dimensions of the ancient Egyptian monuments in the ancient unit called the cubit clearly show that this series was the brainchild of ancient Egyptians. It conforms perfectly with Egyptian mathematics and can, therefore, be regarded as its expression, as evidence indicating Egyptians had knowledge about the summation series. Since the pyramid temple of Khafra Giza was built in 25 BCE, the essential point, the temple complies with the summation series that reaches the figure of 233 cubits in its total length as measured from the pyramid, with 10 consecutive numbers from the series. People are starting to believe that all aspects of our modern geometry were perfected thousands of years ago in ancient Egypt. The advanced knowledge of these people is quite evident from the few recovered papyri now called the ancient Egyptian mathematical papyri. There is also a possibility that these pyramids of Giza are still standing because of the perfect geometry-free and divine measurements that helped build these massive structures. The Egyptian pyramids, predominantly constructed of limestone and crystals that resonate with the Earth's frequency due to the piezoelectric effect, showcase the mystical yet simple powers of the Earth. The materials and equations used in pyramid building by the ancient Egyptians can be easily found in nature. Some believe that the Great Pyramid was not built by slaves, but by skilled craftsmen who used resonance and sound principles to neutralize Earth's gravity and move the massive blocks of vibration. The sacred geometry of the Pyramid of Giza represents the Earth, moon, and human body, and the pyramid demonstrates the ratio of pi. Interestingly, pi was discovered 2000 years after the pyramid's construction. Yet the pyramid's height multiplied by 2 pi gives the perimeter of the base, equatorial circumference, and polar radius of the Earth. Eckhart Schmitz, in his book The Great Pyramid of Giza Decoding the Measure of a Monument, explains the pyramid's code numbers and that the pyramid is a 43,200 to 1 scale model of the Earth. The pyramid's geometry acts as an antenna that can resonate with higher planes of creation, and by modifying the pyramid's shape, the ancient Egyptians could alter its resonance. The placement of the king's chamber in the Great Pyramid around 6 degrees and 15 minutes off-center was designed to receive a carrier wave that can connect a person to higher dimensional levels using a weight. The Earth-Moon relationship contains the unique golden section ratio that squares the circles, an issue that was mathematically impossible to solve in the 19th century with pi being irrational. However, the Earth-Moon and the Great Pyramid come close to solving the problem. The golden mean spiral, derived by using the golden ratio, is found in the architecture of the Great Pyramid, demonstrating the golden section in the basic cross-section structure. The pyramid symbolism also encompasses other important pieces, such as the phi ratio in the triangle formed by the height, half base, and a bottom. The construction of the Egyptian pyramids using limestone and crystals that vibrate at the same frequency as the Earth, due to the piezoelectric effect, is worth noting. This indicates that the pyramids showcase the simple yet mystical powers of the Earth. All materials and equations used by the ancient Egyptians in pyramid building can be found in nature or the heavens. One fascinating theory suggests that the Great Pyramid was not built by slaves but by skilled craftsmen who utilized the principles of resonance and sound to move and neutralize Earth's gravity with the massive blocks of vibration. Sacred geometry is also involved in the Pyramid of Giza, considered a scaled representation of the Earth, moon, and human bodies, demonstrating pi accurately. This is astonishing as pi was discovered by the Greeks about 2000 years after the pyramid was built. By multiplying the pyramid's height with 2 pi, you get the exact perimeter of the base. The pyramid also showcases the equatorial circumference and polar radius of planet Earth. Multiplying the height of the pyramid by 43,200 gives the exact polar radius of the Earth, while multiplying the base perimeter by 43,200 provides the equatorial circumference of the Earth. Eckhart Schmitz, the author of The Great Pyramid of Giza Decoding the Measure of a Monument, believes that the pyramid is a 43,200 to 1 scale model of the Earth. He explains the relationships between what he calls the code numbers found in the pyramid and how squaring the circle of the golden ratio and phi can also be observed. The ancient Egyptians understood that it was possible to create a direct resonant exchange using the correct geometric figures, which acted like an antenna. Sacred geometry became an antenna that resonated with a higher plane. When the Egyptians used the pyramid form, it acted like an antenna for the astral plane. By modifying the shape of the pyramid, they could alter its resonance. This was done by creating a slight indentation in the 4 faces of the pyramid, which changed the resonance of the pyramid in the general astral plane to resonate with the higher astral plane. This enabled them to clean up the energy being projected by the pyramid. The geometrics of the pyramid act like antennas that resonate with higher planes of creation, emitting a certain vibration resulting from a certain connection. The ancient Egyptians knew a lot about it and were able to work with sub-bands or sub-energies inside the general bands. This is also manifested by the placement of the king's chamber in the Great Pyramid, which is not located exactly in the middle, but around 6 degrees and 15 minutes off center. This is done to receive a carrier wave. The ancient practice of geometry can be traced back to Egypt, where it was utilized as a precise science with endless applications. Egyptian surgeons used geometric shapes to perform complex brain surgeries, and their geologists discovered and mined gold in the Sinai Desert using the same techniques. Even the Great Pyramid of Giza, a marvel of engineering, was constructed using powerful geometrical energy emitters. This ancient knowledge was based on exact scientific principles and served as the foundation for the numerology and sacred geometry theories developed by Greek philosophers like Pythagoras and Plato. One fascinating artifact from ancient Egypt is the watch amulet, also known as the papyrus column or scepter. These amulets were shaped like papyrus stems and made of materials such as turquoise, feldspar, or Egyptian faience. The Book of the Dead describes how these amulets were placed around the neck of the deceased to ensure eternal youth in the afterlife. The watch amulet is believed to have been used as an Egyptian pendulum, a tool that creates a penetration carrier wave of energy that projects out from the tip. Another hieroglyphic depiction of sacred geometric principles was found on the Temple of Karnak, showing a background grid used by master designers in ancient Egypt. This 19-level vibrational grid was significant in both sacred geometry and sacred numerology and was later adopted as a sacred number in Islam. Overall, the ancient Egyptians had a profound understanding of the physics behind radiesthesia and applied it to achieve functional goals. While much of this knowledge has been lost over time, remnants of their exact and precise scientific principles continue to inspire researchers and esoteric practitioners today. The hieroglyphs accompanying the figures often convey that they were being taught how to catch and cast magic. According to Arthur C. Clarke, magic is simply a term we use for a form of technology that we cannot understand. Therefore, what we now consider as magic may have been an advanced form of technology used by the ancient Egyptians. Experts believe that the figures were being taught how to use vibrational matrices, or grids that stand behind every single thing in the physical world. The human body is also based on a specific vibrational grid. Another representative of sacred geometry in ancient Egyptian tradition is the scepter, which is known by Egyptologists as a symbol that appeared in relics, art, and hieroglyphs associated with the ancient Egyptian religion. It appears as a stylized animal head at the top of a long straight staff having a forked end. These scepters were used as symbols of power or dominion and were associated with ancient Egyptian deities such as Set or Anubis and the pharaoh. While scepters are also represented as a said animal or canoe in later use, it was a symbol of control over the force of chaos represented by Set. The Ankh is also a significant figure in sacred geometry. According to experts, the Ankh, the key of life, was used in Egyptian art and writing to represent the word for life and, by extension, as a symbol of life itself. The ancient Egyptians believed that geometry was a means by which humanity could finally unravel and understand the mysteries of the divine order. Geometry exists in every part of nature, and its order underlies the structure of all things, including molecules, biological beings, and galaxies. The construction of the Egyptian pyramids using limestone and crystals that resonate with the Earth's frequency demonstrates the mystical yet simple powers of the Earth. The sacred geometry of the Pyramid of Giza represents the Earth, Moon, and human body, and the pyramid demonstrates the ratio of pi. The pyramid symbolism encompasses other important pieces, such as the phi ratio in the triangle formed by the height, half base, and apothem. The advanced knowledge of ancient Egyptians is quite evident from the few recovered papyri now called the ancient Egyptian mathematical papyri. It is possible that all aspects of our modern geometry were perfected thousands of years ago in ancient Egypt, and the secrets of their geometry are still unraveling today.